what you have for me, with table at this point. The December has to be, okay, okay, okay. For Yellow Bridge. And what about the American Express bill? What about the American Express bill? Yeah, yeah. I'd have to check, but I think I did September. I think I need October, November, December. Yellow Bridge Recount. Yeah, yeah. Yellow Bridge will be easy. Okay. Is there anything in payables to look to be done? Okay. Well, I'll look at it this weekend if that's okay. I'll look at it this weekend if that's okay. Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Okay. 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 Well, we'll get it done this weekend. We'll get it all wrapped up. Okay, yeah, by the end of January. Okay. Yeah, we're good on that. Yeah, no, we're okay. We got 3 weeks on that, but I think the what you call it are more important right now, but I'll start with the reconciliations first. Okay, all right then. I'm gonna get on my Zoom, honey, and I'll talk to you soon. Let me know if you think of anything, just send me a text, all right? Okay, okay, bye. All
Brilliant,
right.
brilliant. That was good. No, that was good.
Yeah, I just needed to check in with him. We haven't had an opportunity to talk about books for a little bit, so.
But
Although,
the action was good. Yes, even though it was just about technical,
oh
house.
yeah. I mean, we've talked. That's not the first time we've talked since Christmas. So
Okay, good. So the interaction, the relationship is good. It's okay. Yeah.
yes,
All right.
yes,
Good.
yes.
Good. A bit of sobriety in that relationship is a good thing.
Yes, yes. I want things to be. Excuse me a second. I want things to be calm, between us.
Bye.
Yes.
Very good. Very good.
So,
Which brings to mind, your pardon, the most idiotic and inane gifts ever possibly conceived in the history of antikind. Handkerchiefs.
oh yeah.
Every year, same fucking thing. Handkerchiefs.
Yeah.
Seriously, Auntie Dawn, you don't think I have 12 is enough already? I need to get another 12 on top of another 12.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Once,
And
okay, it's like, hello, cheese, but every fucking year, it's like you got no imagination, zero handkerchiefs, really?
yeah. And who uses cloth handkerchiefs anymore? Do you even use them?
Exactly. Well, back then.
I prefer a Kleenex. It's so much more sanitary.
Right. But I mean, back then, tissue wasn't that common.
Oh.
And it was expensive. So, it wasn't that common. But even so, the toilet paper is much better too. It's a bit rough on your nose, but still.
Yeah.
But keep in mind, though, we went to school with school uniforms on, yes?
Mm.
And your school uniform is slacks, which need to be ironed with a little crease down the middle, a white shirt, a tie, perhaps the sweater, depending on how cold it is, and the blazer, right? That's your school uniform. So part of your school uniform is to have a handkerchief in the blazer pocket.
Oh, okay.
It's not official, but you'll see it still in when men dress, right? And they
Yeah.
put the little handkerchief in the top
Mhm.
pocket, right? And they make it
Mhm.
stick out. All right, they make it a fashion thing. But
Yeah.
it comes from back in the day. This was your standard uniform that you dressed in. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
before Kleenex or tissues were a thing. Yeah. So, but yeah, they're gross. I mean, they're just snot rags that sit in your pocket. You got this bundle of snot. You got to kind of wrap it up in the corner so that you can use the thing more than once. I mean, it's gross. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, you forget. You put the hand in the pocket like,
Yeah.
So too funny. And you wonder how that may not have contributed to colds and stuff.
Oh,
Maybe
I mean, I've got a whole little bag of
Yeah.
handkerchiefs from my grandmother.
Yeah.
Ladies were supposed to use them too. They were more than just fashion, but
Oh, yeah.
they're all these fancy, silky.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I mean,
it is handy. I mean, it is handy to have a little cloth in your pocket because it comes in handy for all sorts of things. So it's not a bad idea, but anyway, days gone by. Let's just put it that way.
yeah.
Anyway, but it just fascinated me that somebody could give such a totally idiotic gift. But anyway, gifts have come up, and Christmas and holidays and the stress of particularly Christmas, because of all the impositions that and expectations and obligations and all the shoulds and all of the nonsense that comes from it. So it's a big deal. But anyway, it was just amusing. So I have a whole Biella story on it, which is a very fun story.
Yeah.
But
Well, you know what? And I kind of, when we were having our argument with Greg and Ali and Justin and I, and they were telling me that my behavior on Christmas Eve was an act. And I said, you know what? Damn you, Ali, because I was so fucking proud of that gift I bought you. I found the perfect gift for you. I couldn't wait for you to see it. I bought him a beautiful white hoodie that had black on it, Armani Exchange, and then black sweatpants, like workout pants, with black with Armani Exchange white going down the side. And it was a
this is for
beautiful
Ali
outfit.
now.
This was for Ali. And I just
And
thought it was like,
he wears that kind of thing.
he likes Armani Exchange. Yeah, he likes Armani.
And-
So yeah, so I mean, I said I was so damn proud of that gift. I couldn't wait for you to open it. I was so proud. I mean, I searched and searched the internet until I found just the perfect set for him. And you know what I mean? It just, and he ruined it for me.
Did he like the gift?
I don't know.
Oh, you didn't see him open it?
No, I didn't. I mean, he didn't make a big deal about it, and whatever.
Well,
Whatever.
I'm assuming we have a bunch of other stuff you want to talk about. Otherwise, I'll tell you the whole Biella story, Christmas story. It's called A Biella Christmas, but I figure there's other stuff we want to talk about, right?
Well, you always ask me, what's on my mind.
Yes, and what's in your heart and what's on your soul too.
Well, I just happened to see a photograph or a picture on my computer, and it was a lake scene. But it just occurred to me that it was this big round lake, and then there was almost like a thumb that went out into the lake.
Screen share.
I don't know where it came up on my on my gut. I don't have it. But there was this thumb shaped thing that grew out into the lake. And
wow.
It just occurred to me, and I had to write it down. I said, when I look at nature, I mean, when I really study it, I see how all living creatures endeavor to find their place to be and their place to survive, and how those trees grew away from the edge and into the water in that one spot, instead of like staying on the edge where they're supposed to be. And it just occurred to me, how magical it was that they just decided to grow into the lake. And then there's this like big piece that went into the lake.
Wow.
Then I thought about like the trees that grow out of rock walls
Yes,
and
yes,
the struggle for all
yeah,
living things to
yes,
make their way and to
right,
survive in
right,
all ways, in all
right,
conditions.
right,
Yeah.
right. But really, when you look at it and you look at life, I always say life is easy. People say, no, it's not. I say, yeah, life is easy. Living may be a little harder, but life is plenty of it. It grows everywhere. It grows in the tracks, in the rocks, in the most weirdest places. If it can grow, so it must be easy because it grows freaking everywhere.
Yeah.
Life is everywhere. So, just look at cockroaches and insects and stuff. They're everywhere. Life is everywhere. So life is easy. Living a little trickier.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's me being an ass.
Yeah.
Uh,
So that's all. Um,
all
I
right.
had
All
a
right.
long
But you
day
you you
of,
you're okay with yeah.
yeah, I've had just a really long day of struggling,
All right. Right. All right. Well,
and
we'll
my
talk. We'll
brain's
take
a
it
little
easy.
mushy.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, maybe I should tell you the story then.
Okay.
Yeah. But before we get there, I just wanted to touch on, our conversation last night, which is all about habit management. I mean, that's like super deluxe habit management, right? When we are dealing with a pressure on us to do something, and that pressure is coming from a want, a desire, a need, physical feeling, whatever, right? That's kind of a habit. Not kind of, it is. It's a very profound and deeply entrenched habit, a habit that is connected to belief and association. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So all what we were talking about yesterday was really about lux, super sophisticated habit management. Yeah. Yeah. By the way, one really powerful trick. So when whatever it is that you want to change comes up, the thing that the entrenched habit, which is usually a want or a desire of some kind, right? When it surfaces in that moment, right? That when you first become aware of it, right? So first, slippery slope, right? Being absolutely aware of slippery slope. This is absolutely important, right? Because you know that you can't even indulge thinking about it, not even for a second, because then you're already sliding on that slope, right? So you got to cut it
Okay.
off before it gets started. That's absolutely critical. And now this might not always be the easiest thing to do. So one of the tricks that can be used is to associate the thing with something really horrible and negative, right? All right, so you want to stop smoking, for argument's sake, right? So the minute you feel like smoking, not that everybody wants to stop smoking or should stop smoking or needs to, but just in case they might want to, I'm, I'm not taking a dig at your smoking. It just happens to be an example, right? So if you now really want to do this, go and look up pictures of what people's lungs look like when they smoke, right?
Yeah.
It's really gross, okay? But now you need to find something that truly does gross you out, right? So that when you remember it, you have that icky, horrible, gross feeling comes back to you, right? So the moment that you now, oh, I feel like a cigarette, boom, first thing you do, right? Immediately, that's like before you even started on slipping on the slippery slope, you think of that gross image
Yeah.
and the associated feeling right then. So now you train your brain. The moment, instantly, it's that conditioning, right? This is very, very, very powerful, and
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what the association is. It just needs to be, that's it, an unpleasant one. So this is a very powerful technique. Very, 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 very powerful. Yeah. But you got to feel it. That's the key. Just a visual is
Yeah.
not enough. It's got to be
Yeah.
something that really is
Yeah. I think
it's not a pleasant feeling.
one of my challenges, and I
Yeah.
had mentioned to Greg that the prospect of never again being able to sit down in front of my fireplace with a glass of red
Yeah.
wine and just unwind is a daunting thought.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't
Yes.
like the thought of never ever
Yes.
being able to do that
Yes.
again.
Yes. Yes. And that is a problem here, right? All right. So let me put this in a better context, right? So in me, in my own weirdness, and it's not something that I think is necessarily so for anybody. It's just my own personal particular thing, from an energy management point of view, right? I do not want to be connected or have sex be an issue in my life where I have to have it. Yes, because I want to be free of that energy drain, and I do feel that energy is an energy that's a very precious energy that can be used for other things. And if you use it for sex, you don't have it available to use for other things, right? All right. So this is my intent, and it's been an intent most of my life. Now, of course, to give up this is a very difficult thing, right? Because this is something that very deep goes into your biology. And also it's I even now question it. I find because when you now don't produce testosterone as a guy, which obviously gives you prostate and stuff like that. So I don't know, but nonetheless, the point I'm trying to make is this is why I understand so well what you're talking about, right? It's not the abstract of it is the same thing. You're breaking a very deep habit, a habit that's connected to a deep physicality. Yes. Even more so. The issue is that it's something for me that I'm doing that's based on an idea and a belief, right? So there's like extra difficulty. Why? Because I cannot say for certain this is a good idea. I just believe it is. I want it to be a good idea. The one thing that I do know is a good idea is I don't want to be addicted to it. Now, and I don't mean like a sex addict in the way that people have a problem.
Right.
I mean, in the same way as
but you don't want cravings for it.
Right.
Yeah.
I zero. I want to be able to absolutely be free of it, to choose if I choose or not. And if I do choose, to not get sucked back in, and then it's all, because I've gone long periods and then you start again, and then it kind of stirs it all up again, right? And so I don't like that. That bothers me inordinately. I don't care for this idea of being the slave of anything. It's enough that I'm already got, food and drink and sleep that I have to do, and I have to go to the bathroom. All right, but that's about it. I want to try and limit as much as I possibly can. But nonetheless, this dealing with it, it is a physical addiction, obviously, right? And it really makes me understand habit management, psychology management, association management, awareness, so it's tremendously valuable for me, or it has been, right? So, learning to do this, it's not an idle skill. And, association management, like I said, that having that association is very wonderful. So actually I got to, I'll share with you a little bit here, because I find it very amusing how sometimes you get help from unexpected quarters. So in the group, for whatever reason, Facebook changed something a while back, and we started getting people wanting to join. And the way the groups work, you request to participate and then you get approved, right? I mean, and I've put everybody on. I think you can set criteria for automatic approval, but I don't want that. So then if they want to make a post, so if they find the group, and the spammers, of course, any group that has a large number of members, they find you and then they want to post crap, right? So then they make a post, but it doesn't automatically gets posted. They have to be approved first. And in that approval, there's a little preview button, and you can preview their post, right? So the change a little while back, it was never a problem before, really. But suddenly we started getting people posting pornography, which I never saw before on Facebook. It's really interesting. So of course, then I don't just decline their request to participate, I block them. So I've been doing this now for a while, and it's gradually now starting to go away. I don't see it anymore. But nonetheless, when you click on preview, you got bam right in your face. You've got whatever it is that they decide to show you. So one of the images that I use is a very particular gross close-up. So I thought, well, at least I got some value out of this idiocy that's on there. So I report them, actually. I don't just block them. I report them to Facebook. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, so and I don't just report it as well. It's under the heading of nudity, which I don't object to freaking nudity, Facebook, but okay, sexual activity. I don't object to sexual activity either. There's a difference between sexual activity and pornography. But then they have another category, which is sexual exploitation. Now, it's not technically sexual exploitation, but it's mostly Asian porn, and they kind of look young. So I just report it as sexual because I know they take sexual exploitation, a little bit more seriously than they would
Okay.
just pornography. So they have to act on it. They can't not, you see. So they have to have priorities, and especially if it involves children, then they like super onto it. If it's kiddie porn and stuff like that. So, but anyway, I thought this was very amusing this time around. But anything can be useful. Associations don't have to come about through a logic. It's important to understand under the heading of association management as a category, right? They don't have to be logically connected. Anything can be associated with anything else simply because we choose to.
Mm.
Yeah. So it's like I'm the in gaming they call them the devs, the developers, right? Who are the gaming gods, literally. They create the game and whatever changes, and they decide what rewards you get and everything. Anything that's important in the game, that's the devs decide. Lost my point a bit now. Wow. Lost where I was going with this. What was before that?
You're going in and out.
Associations.
Oh, there we go.
Right.
Here we go.
Okay. So it's like in you the game developer, or you the programmer for the computer, and you just say, I now heretofore deem that A is associated with Z. That's it. There doesn't have to be a reason for it. We can just put it together, and then our internal computer says, okay, those two are linked now. That's it.
Okay.
I mean, once you decide to link them, they're just linked. Right?
Okay.
So, any habit. I mean, if you want to take any habit, and later when we get into habit management in the session, we'll get into this. It's a very powerful technique. Very, very powerful. So just be aware that, like in your case, because you are looking to do something that goes against your superficial logic, right? So like in my case, right, I said, yeah, but it's so nice, why do you want to do it, blah blah. There's no reason. I can make a really good argument for doing so, right, in the short term, right? And there's nothing objectively that I can prove to say it's a bad idea. Yes.
Okay.
Now I might say, well, it's a bad idea to be addicted to anything. But that's a very big overview perspective, right? And I want to be free. And this is the key. And I want to be able to be free of things like that, right? I don't want to have be a slave, right? I mean, I already know that when it comes to food, I mean, I really enjoy my food. I don't eat all the weird stuff that other people eat, but I really enjoy my food. But I know I've also lived for, a couple of months on rice only. We had meat once. I said, when we lived in the desert, we were growing our own vegetables, and, while we were doing so, that's it. We had rice. That was all we had to eat. Okay, rice and spices, I will say. Olivia had this big spice basket. I mean, she must have had literally every spice you could possibly get, right? So this survived in the whole thing. And, when we went to the desert, it's a long story. But anyway, we spent our last $6 on rice. Yeah. And well, we already had the seeds, but anyway, a long story. A very magical story. Truly, truly wonderfully magical story. So we were quite happy to eat the rice while we waited for our vegetables to grow. But anyway, I mean, lots of stuff happened as a result of that. But I've had rice spiced every which way you can possibly imagine. And, I never complained. I was never bored with it. It was never unpleasant. Even if it had been plain rice every day, it was what it was. So I know I have the capacity, to eat and not to be bothered. Why? Because there was no choice. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we had no running water. We had no electricity, None of that stuff, So, I mean, we had to make fire every day and all this. It was just wonderfully primitive. Yeah.
Okay.
But again, if you don't have a complaining mindset, it was an adventure for us. It was the most fantastic thing ever.
Yeah.
So it's a good story. I'll tell you a little bit more. All right. So we had the restaurant, very busy restaurant, basically in Manhattan meets Malibu. That's Sea Point in Cape Town. Fantastic place, right? Anyway, so we had this restaurant for 4 years, which is like 40 years. Really. I mean, it's the equivalent, right? Very busy, super busy. But at some point, we were thinking of getting out of it, right? So that looks like a very nice rug, by the way.
Oh, it's a shawl.
It just looked like a carpet. Anyway, so I'm in the restaurant and it's really busy, right? I mean, super crazy busy because we had this lobster special. Anyway, long story. So the people that are at the tables, right? I'm busy because I'm not. I'm just supervising. I'm running the cash register, making sure all the waiters and waitresses are doing their job and all this. And these people would grab my arm, just like here, right there, right? And they just grab it. You know how they grab your elbow like that, right? Older people. Dang. And they clamp on, boy. It's like the freaking grip of death. And they hold me. It's like, I'm busy. Let me go. I got stuff to do. But okay, you got to be polite, right? Okay. So now I stand there. Of course, I'm very courteous, So all right, I listen. Every time they said the same fucking thing. Same thing. Gives me chills. If I was your age, and then they would say what they would have done if I was, because I was a young guy, I mean, and I looked young at the time too. I'm in my early to mid 20s, yes. And they grab me and say, if I was your age. So I'm like, at first I'm like, wow, okay, interesting, whatever. And then, this kept on going on, like over and over and over again. It's like the universe is really trying to get my attention. So, okay, I'm paying attention. I'm listening. And what I was hearing was a lament for lost youth. Because these people could see I had an energy to me and I had an intent to honest, that I wasn't just in it, for the money and whatever, the usual stuff, right? They could clearly see that I had something else going on. And they were all telling me to not waste my youth in the restaurant, to get out and go do whatever the hell it was. And they would tell me, when I was your age, or if I was your age, that's what they said, if I was your age. And then they would tell me I would do this and that. And they would tell me about how they never went on this trip and whatever, right? It was fascinating. And these were all people from all over the world, right? Successful, wealthy people, all of them. Yeah. It was very profound. So as a consequence of this, I said, well, we got to get out of this restaurant, right? And so we decided to get out. And then I have a very, very powerful story that is at that same time where I was also thinking about, it's called the Gift of Intent story. I don't know, maybe I've shared it with you, and maybe you've read it already, no?
The which story?
It's called The Gift of Intent.
I don't know.
All right. It's a young man and his heart story. Anyway, so in this story, the young man, now me now. So I was thinking about self-wisdom, right? And the pursuit of self-wisdom and how it's flawed. Why? Because, I mean, this is all I've done all my life, right? And I've done my great reading project. I read all the classics and everything, right? But I came to realize that no matter how much you know, it's never going to be enough. And because you know that you don't know everything. This means that potentially any decision you make is always potentially flawed.
Right.
So you kind of fucked, yeah?
Well, kind of. You're imperfect, but
I
that
mean,
doesn't mean you can't make good decisions.
No, it doesn't mean that you cannot make good decisions. There's it's all probability, but you can never be certain that they are the best or ideal decisions, right? The certainty is there. You cannot have that certainty. So I said, maybe there got to be a better system than this, right? Because I don't care for this, because I'm aware of more stuff, and I've read all the classics, and I've thought about stuff and all this. I'm aware of what I don't know, because the more you know, the more you become aware of how much you don't know, right? I call it the inverted pyramid of knowledge above your head. So I was acutely aware of how much I didn't know, and therefore all my decisions are, they compromised. So I said, well, there's got to be a better way. So then I said, what about if I flip this thing around and said, let me not make the decisions, but let me rely on the universe for my decisions, because, well, the universe has access to universal knowledge. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a way for me to solve this problem. But this requires a complete, 180 a way of living, right? Because I'm not living from internal decisions. I'm living now according to external decisions.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Doesn't that
Things
go
come outside.
against the key to impeccability, which is you choose your choice?
Right. No, it doesn't, and I'll explain why. We'll get into it all, how it doesn't conflict, right? Okay. So, but this is the story, because that's how it starts, right? And it goes
Okay.
into impeccability
Okay.
later on.
That's that.
So
Okay.
yeah,
So
it
that was
can.
your choice.
Right.
You
It can
chose to
seem
let,
exactly.
yes.
It can seem conflicting, but again, let's just go with the story, because I'm telling you the story of being in the desert now, right? How we got to the desert. It's a long story. It's a very long story, but all the things tied together. So anyway, all right. So we decide to get out, and then we decide to sell the restaurant. And actually, it was a good. We just barely sold in time. We were very busy, but then they made a whole development, and the business changed and everything. All right. So we sell the business, and part of this was that we got some cash, which we had all our the running debts for the business. We paid most of those. Majority of them. Some didn't get, but they wasn't critical at any rate. And then the rest of it was a business that we got as part of the deal for selling the restaurant, which we would then continue and pay whatever was outstanding and so on. It wasn't a big deal, what was outstanding. But anyway, so we check this out, we get to hire this, oh man, this really high-end law firm, like you see in the movies. You go into the office and it's all wood paneling, and they look like they come from the freaking Victorian age or whatever. I mean, man, that was really an impressive law office, right? So we hire them to check out this business. Oh, everything checks out fine. Okay. So we do our due diligence and impeccability. But then we get into this business and we get nothing. Zero business. It was a trucking contracting business, right? And we were supposed to get a trucking contract from this business, and then our part of the business was to connect the contract with the trucker, right? But you can't connect anybody if they're not sending you the contracts. We just kept getting those contracts. Where's the thing? Oh, it's coming. Anyway, so basically nothing happens of this. And of course, we just waiting for the stuff to come and happen, and nothing happens. And meanwhile, we now run out of money. We had like an office that we paid and everything. This goes on for months. Anyway, so in the end of the thing, we have to leave our apartment and everything. And so to cut a very long story short, somewhere along the line, Olivia had gotten a printout, and printouts were very rare in those days because computers were new. They were only around for a couple of years. This was like in the 80s, right? A printout of properties that my father owned. How in the hell this ever came about, I have no idea. So, well, I sort of got more or less an idea, but still, it was really exceptional. So I'm looking through, busy going through our stuff and what are we going to do? And I noticed this list of properties. And I see, oh, wow, it's got a couple of farms in Ceres, in the district of Ceres. Now Ceres is called Little Switzerland.
It's called what? I can't hear.
Kind of like my thing behind me here, right? Oh, I said Ceres. I said there's two farms in the district of Ceres, right?
Okay.
Ceres, I recognize the name. It's called Little Switzerland.
Okay.
Did you hear? Yeah. So it's just a really beautiful area, right? So I said, wow, this will be cool. So I said, okay, well, we always wanted to buy a farm. We actually, while we had the restaurant, we went out and looked at farms to buy, but, we didn't quite have enough yet. It was also our dream. So, well, let's go and live on this farm and plant our own vegetables and do our own thing and, just whatever, and pay attention to our spirituality and learning and growth and whatever. Okay. So I call my father now. My father's J.R. Ewing. Okay, that's my father. He's a medical doctor, but he's J.R. Ewing. Even to the extent that he wears a Stetson sometimes, right? He specially imported a Stetson. He loves J.R. Ewing, so Stetson's anywhere there. So anyway, so I called him up and said, look, is it okay if we go and stay on this farm? And the farm's name is Rattelfontein, which means weasel fountain. But the rattle it doesn't have the same connotation as weasel. It's not a negative term. Anyway, so he laughs a little bit and he says, yeah, sure. And that's it. Okay, thank you. He gives me the directions and that's the end of the story. The laugh was a little odd, but then, well, my father's very odd, so I don't pay too much attention to it. I have no idea what would amuse him or not. I mean, he certainly is and lives in a different reality. So, okay, off we go. So, by the way, unbeknownst to me at the time, but because we had this looking for the farms, right? And I looked at the different things. I had acquired this big map of South Africa, huge. It was as big as me, yeah. And it hung on the wall just inside our front door, yeah. So I would regularly stand and stare at this map, and I would say, where would be the ideal place that you'd like to have a farm? It must be remote, but not too remote. Yes, so you don't want to be like way out in Gamadulus. That's what it's called, the middle of nowhere. The South African word for it is Gamadulus. Is that a cool word?
Yeah.
Anyway, so you don't want to be way out in the sticks, but you do want to be somewhat where you're not all crowded and lots of neighbors and stuff, and also relatively near to the city should you ever want the amenities of the city, right? You want the ideal. So I look at the map and I say, hey, this spot, this would be the ideal place, right? And I'd put my finger on the spot. And I would do this on a regular basis because it gave me joy to think of having a farm in that spot, right? So, of course, lo and behold, this is the very spot where this farm is, but I didn't know it. I didn't know it at the time, right? I had no idea. So just a little kind of a weirdness that was being, there we go, intent, So anyway, all right, I get the directions and we now we're out of money. We're being evicted from our apartment and we got to go. So with our last, funds, we always had seeds because we just like this idea of having seeds, it's kind of like, emergency supplies and stuff. So we already had the seeds and then we spent the last of our money on the movers. And then what was over, which was the $6, we bought the rice with. Okay. We've got the seeds. We ready to go. Mad naivety, but doesn't matter. So we hired these two guys, and they were totally anomalous, right? Now in South Africa, if you hire moving guys, it's like pretty much in America. If you call up a moving company, what are you going to get? You're going to get a truck full of Mexicans, right? Mm-hmm. That's usually what happens in America. Well, in South Africa, you're going to get whoever may be the driver, and then you're going to get black guys, who are doing the labor. No, these were two white guys, and they had polished shoes and ironed pleated trousers. The most incredible thing, right? I mean, that's your boss guy, so they must own the company or whatever. But they did the hauling of the stuff themselves, no labor. It was really anomalous. It was truly something different, right? So I never seen that before. So anyway, so off we go. But now we have a problem because there's the two of them and there's two of us, and I know the direction, so Olivia had to sit in the back for the trip. Now it's I don't know how many hours trip, but it's a long way to drive. But all right, it has to be, can't be up, so be it. Off we go. So we drive and we get to Ceres. It's very cool. And I said, okay, well, we have to go out, and you go out the northern highway over the town. Okay. So I'm following the directions. And as we go out the northern side of the town, we go over the mountain pass and down, and now we start to get into semi-desert, right? And it's this big long valley that's kind of like Death Valley, sort of, right? And the tar road ends as we come off the mountain, and I realize, this farm is in the district of Ceres, but the district of Ceres goes out of the beautiful mountain things and overlaps into the desert district, right? Okay, well, so be it. And we drive and we fucking drive and we drive and we drive and we drive. And they keep saying to me, the two guys, are you sure this is the right way? I said, yes, I'm sure. I haven't seen the little sign yet. And I'm looking, like really my eyes are glued to the thing because there's a very clear sign that it says Kahakama, which was the neighboring farm. A little board says Kachagama. Okay, very clear, can't be missed. Okay, Kachagama. All right, so eventually I see this. Oh, there we go. See, yeah, I told you. Yeah, it's all good. Okay, no worries. All right, so we turn off here, and I follow, and they said yes, and then there's another little road, and it's kind of. So we go off, and it's now. I mean, nobody's been here forever, obviously, and it's kind of a little bit sandy, and the moving truck is just a little box van, right? It's not a very big thing. It's a little box van. We didn't have too much stuff, so. And kind of slipping a little bit. And as we drive, there's this old farmhouse with no roof, and the walls are still up but no roof, and it's obviously a stable because you can see there's hay inside it, or has been used as a stable, no horse. And then there's another little kind of older buildings like adobe mud wattle from way back when buildings, and then obviously these things hadn't been used forever. And there's a modern prefab. Well, modern, I use the term very, very loosely because it was one of the very earliest prefabs, the ones that actually folded with hinges. Have you seen those?
Oh gosh, no.
And yeah, I mean, they were just terrible. And they gave manufactured housing a terrible name because they were horribly made. They literally had gaps this big, but in between the wall and the floor. Because the hinges, they didn't make it, they weren't very tight. So, but nonetheless, so this prefab house is there, but the roof has been blown off, and it's lying in chunk in this yard around it. And some of the foam lining from it is lying there, and it just looks like a scene out of Apocalypse Now or something, or Mad Max or something, right? And it's just desolate, and it is quiet as freaking, I don't know, Methuselah's tomb or something, right? There's not a peep, not a sound. There's no life of any kind. And we've been driving for hours already on this gravel road, right, to get here. So we are now absolutely in the middle of nowhere, right? I mean, quite literally the middle of nowhere. And so we get there, and they say, are you sure?
Omadulos.
Yeah, we're in the Hamadulus. Yes, that's right. Right in the Hamadulus. Right in the middle of the Hamadulus. Yes. Are you sure it's the right? Yeah, it's the right place. Okay, so I get out and I go and check, but the door of the thing is locked. And I say, well, all right, I'll figure out later how to get in. And I just have them. We'll just unload the stuff because it's desert, and it's summer. There's no rain. I mean, this place, if it gets rain once a year, that would be a lot, right? So anyway, and so we start unloading. And as truth, Bob, every single time they unloaded something, they said, are you sure you want to stay here? And they would take it and unload it and go and put it. With every item they took out.
They wanted to take you back.
We'll take it back, no charge, not a problem, right? And we'll put it all back and we'll take it back. Are you sure you want to stay here? They must have asked this, I don't know, a couple of dozen times, right? Over and over and over again. Right, but this was already we had learned to recognize the universe at work, right? And because I knew one thing, that if I go back, I'm dead. I can go and get a job and do all this, but spiritually, I'm dead because I'm going back on my path. It's like you were saying, you can't go back, right? Once you embark, there's no going back, right? If you go back, you give up. And it's like you've now said, well, moreness isn't for me. Learning, growth, challenge, it's not for me. And living according to my principles is not for me. We were there, not because of we were there because of a spiritual decision to live according to this way of living, right? And all the factors that pointed to it, and there was just no way we could accept. It was, absolute force of circumstance how we got to be there. Was really a magical thing. And the whole story with the business and all the stuff, lots of stuff happened. So we knew this was the right place to be, regardless of how crappy it looked. We knew this was the right place to be, right? And we saw, well, okay, but to us it was like, yeah, it is what it is. We'll make the best of it, and it doesn't matter. So we were up for it, and we knew absolutely going back was not an option. And that's the point of the story, right? That going back was not an option, no matter how much those guys offered. And they offered and offered and offered and offered, and they left basically shaking their heads and really like all doom and gloom and dire predictions and whatnot, right? So they didn't really put the pressure on us to go back, but as much as was possible they did. Yes. So at least the universe made it very clear that if we had wanted to, we could have, but we knew there was no going back. Now, us staying there, of course, now we have to figure out what's going on. And, there's a kind of a well there, but the well is this deep. That's it. I mean, you could kind of scoop out, you'd get about a third of a bucket. And that was it, I mean, you scooped what water's in there, and it doesn't come back right away. It takes, like, I don't know, a couple of hours before it fills up again. And the water has worms in it on top of that. So,
As what?
has worms in it. Yeah. Well, the worms come from they come from it's part
Sweetie,
of
I'd have given myself permission to go back.
Right.
I wouldn't
we
have
didn't
felt
know we didn't know there was worms in the water at that point, right? We only discovered once that left already. But so what? We just got out the dishcloth, those old dishcloths, the ones with like green or red stripes or blue stripes on them, the white ones. You know what I'm talking about? That used to dry the dishes with. You never seen those? We used to use them as drying cloths for dishes, but they always looked the same. And somebody else said, "Oh, I know what you're talking about. They were white, and then they had like stripes on them, like cross stripes, either blue or red or green."
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so we just took one of those, and we got a second bucket, and then we just, strained the water through the cloth.
Filtered it through that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the worms. We later found out. Well, that's another fun story. But they weren't. They live in the water. They came from outside. They just to land in the water. The wind had blown them in there. But anyway, so it's a new water and all this. So we had a little bit of jippo guts. That's what we call it there. But a diarrhea to start with. But after a couple of days, we were all fine and good. And of course, you boil the water and all this. So it wasn't the end of the world. But of course, you got no toilet. We could if we want. There was a toilet in the house, and you can use bucket, but didn't have enough water to do it. So we just went out into the, behind the little. There were some thorn trees, little next to the house, because it was there was obviously spring, but close to it, right? For the rest, we made the fire every day and did our thing, and it was fantastic. Now, we had lots of adventures there, and I'll tell you all the adventures in another time. But I want to say, this is stimulated by a post in the group. Somebody said, "Oh, have you ever been rock bottom?" And I said, for me, the bottom was actually an up. This is one of them. That's not actually the story that I'm thinking of, because this I don't even regard as a bottom. It's just adventure, Okay. But I mean, that time in the desert was absolutely fantastically marvelous. We actually ended up coming back there as well. So we had all sorts of wonderful times in the desert. And then, we had that was, I don't know, a couple of miles away we had to walk to. And that was a magical adventure. And so just for the fun of it. So, right, we've got to go and plant, because the garden, somebody had fenced off a little area next to where the sheep would get their water, right?
You went away.
No, I didn't. Oh, all right. Yeah.
There. Okay, there you're back. Okay.
So did I tell you? Yeah. Did I tell you about the sheep sitting in their water?
No. Where did the sheep come from?
Okay. So this farm that my father owns, turns out, he has a buddy of his, or somebody that he knows, the neighbor, and they have another farm.
Okay, you're cutting in and out. Wait a minute.
Even though they're in the desert. Yeah. All right. Hang on. Okay. You hear me now?
Okay, I can. Yes.
Yeah. The audio is. Let me turn you up because I can't hear you. Say something, Cheryl.
Okay. Oh, it's like echoing a little.
Yeah. I was supposed to end on the phone, otherwise I hear both.
Okay. Is that better? Is that better? You can hear me or no?
Yeah. Hang on. Okay. Say something now.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
So, I put you on the computer. Now you come through the speakers, which is a little weird to hear you on the speakers, but it's all right. Anyway, so, oh, I was saying about the garden. So these farms are sheep farms, but they're huge farms. I mean, let's see, they're about 20,000 acres large.
Oh, wow.
Farm. Yeah, so it's a big farm. And on that 20,000 acres, you can have about 200 sheep.
Okay. Okay.
So that's the maximum carry capacity because the food is so scarce, right? It's mostly, it's very sandy, it's very rocky, but you have little, I mean, the bushes, boy, they look like they're dead and dried, but that's how they are there, right? And it'll rain once ever in a blue moon, and then the things grow for a while. It's just a desert kind of logic. At any rate, so the sheep would come to there was a windmill, that had a little trough to it, and then from the overflow of this trough, it ran into a little runoff pond, little down the hill, right? And so, of course, this is where the sheep would come to water when they were on this. So the neighbor and my father, they would use the land together instead of just the sheep being on one farm only. They pulled the sheep together and had them be on both farms because it makes for better rotation of the sheep, right? So it gives the stuff a better chance to regrow. You don't overgraze.
Yeah.
So anyway, and the one watering place there where they had this trough and then the little runoff pond, somebody had made a little garden, put fencing around, and because you could water from this pond. Now, in this pond, it's a great lesson of the accumulation of minutiae and also about the inability to extrapolate, right? Two great lessons from the desert. I had lots of lessons, but this was because, so the sheep would come, right? And there's, I don't know, 200-300 sheep in the flock, something like that. And they would congregate at the trough, but at the trough, they can maybe have a dozen or so at any one time, right? So they're all jockeying for competition. So of course, those that don't get in at first, they go to the runoff in the pond and drink from the pond. But over time, of course, they need to shit, they shit right in the drinking water. Now, of course, when it's new and clean and clear, you don't notice it. A little bit of shit in the water, it's not a big deal. But over time, it built up. And eventually, I mean, when we got there already, it was so bad, it was this layer of scum across the top of the water. Yeah? So it became unusable. Now, if this had been in nature, that would have poisoned the sheep. They couldn't drink from it, right?
Right.
So even then, some of them tried to drink, but they couldn't really. It made great fertilizer for the garden because, I made it just with a spade. I made a little runoff furrow because the garden was downhill from this. So it was very great fertilizer. Well, it was awesome. So anyway, but it was a good lesson, though, of awareness and the necessity for awareness. Yeah. Don't shit in the drinking water. Yeah. A lot of people do this. They do it all the time. Yeah. Right. The equivalent of it because they can't extrapolate. They just, it's a little thing. It's a little thing. Right.
Yeah.
So, but the bigger point of the story was just the magic of being there. That, we just had a wonderful time. So just for the end of the story, well, it's not really an end because it's a long story that's carrying on till right now. It's all connected, Cheryl, right? I have this written down, by the way. My whole life story is one big, long, connected story, right? So I'd started, but the restaurant came out of moreness, and it always was connected to something that came before. So anyway, so one day we sitting there on the desert, and man, talk about hot, right? I mean, this place is freaking Ovensville. That's what it is, right? Because they have the berg wind at that time, a mountain wind. And when you open up an oven door and you get that hot air that comes into your face, that's what the wind would feel like.
Oh gosh.
So a normal linen shirt, right? Normal dress shirt that you'd wear, IBM shirt. Yeah. So when we were at that windmill, right, you dip it in the water because it's nice and cool. By the time I'd finished doing my buttons, that shirt was dry.
Wow.
That wind was so dry, it just sucked out all the moisture out. And
did it ever rain? I mean, did you have any roof over your head at all?
No. It did rain when we were there, but the rain there is literally a once a year event. And some years not even get that, right? It was too fantastic. So I think about a week after we were there, right? All of a sudden, we hear the thunder and it just starts. It just absolutely, the heavens just open. And I mean, all our stuff was outside the fridge of the stove and everything still. We hadn't moved it in yet because, well, we broke the window to get inside, but, you know, it didn't matter, you know. So, I mean, you know, it's going to dry in an hour after it stops raining. So, you know,
Yeah.
nothing's going to get harmed really. So, and, you know, like I think the sofas and the bed or whatever, the stuff that may have mattered was already inside. So it didn't matter. At any rate, so and it was just too beautiful, because then it basically transformed, you know, all those little desert flowers would bloom and all this. Have you seen those where they show the desert that transforms after it rains like that? Yeah, and that's what happened. So I don't know, we just took it as a welcome, as a good omen. We took it as. So it was very magical. So anyway, so this heat was something else though. I mean, when I would walk to the, oh, that was the story I was going to tell you about the garden. So okay, so we were going to do our garden, and we're now all keen on this, right? And so I said, well, I don't want to be working in the day, you know, doing the.
Come here a second. Wait. Greg's just getting home.
Yeah, no
Say
problem.
hello.
Hey, Greg, how you doing, man?
Good.
Hello.
What you doing?
I need pizza when you want.
Oh, all right. I'm not going to be eating for a little while, though.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. You're not working?
I hear pizza.
Yeah.
Is that what I heard? Really? Oh,
made
I'll have pizza. I'll volunteer for pizza always.
Did you make it with pepperoni or salami or anything, or what'd you make? All right. You're not working or anything tonight? Okay.
Did Greg make the pizza?
Well, we buy the it's actually called tomato pie. It's pizza dough with cheese and sauce on top of the cheese.
And then you put it in the oven, right?
And then we put it in the oven and we put toppings on it.
Oh, brilliant. All right, well, good for Greg that he made pizza. Let me see.
Ooh, show Sil.
Wow.
Over here.
Have a slice.
Oh, man, you're just torturing me now, Greg. Bastard. Hang it.
Bastard. He called you
Say
bastard.
bastard, not bastard. That's American.
Oh, well, I called him a bastard.
Bastard. No, bastard.
Bastard.
Bastard, yes. Anyhow, so I figure, well, you know what, I don't want to be walking in the heat of the day because it's really, really hot there. I mean, this is, you know, it'll get up to 120 and that kind of heat, you know, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Hot. So I figure we have to get up like really early so that we get to the garden just at first light, right?
Okay.
Just slightly before first light, because I must, as long as I can barely see, I can still do whatever I need to do, you know, dig up the garden and all this to get it ready for the planting, right? And then,
Okay.
you know, then also I can do an hour's worth of work and leave and basically walk back while sunrise, because it doesn't matter, half an hour sunrise, it's hot, Cheryl.
It's a half an hour sunrise.
No, half an hour after sunrise.
Okay.
Right, that's it. I mean, there's no morning where, you know, no, it's just when sun is up, it's hot. That's it. End of story.
Okay. Yeah.
So we want to be back by basically just after sunrise. Okay. So now, you know, we do this, we get up early, we go, and I'm like tired as crazy. I'm like, holy crap, how come I'm so bloody tired? You know, what on earth is going on? And eventually I figured it out, because, you know, we have no electricity, of course. And, you know, yes, we had candles, but, you know, we're living in an open house. There's no curtains on the windows or anything. So you're basically, you know, living with a natural light. Once your eyes get accustomed to this, and in summer, when the sun actually goes down at 8:30, when does it actually get dark?
Yeah.
It actually gets dark around about 10 o'clock only, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
you know, we coming from the restaurant, so, you know, we're not really going to sleep early. So, you know, you're around still, and, you know, after dark, an hour or two, you figure, okay, it's time to go to sleep. But I didn't think of the time. So basically, I'm getting to sleep at about 12, 1 o'clock, and I'm waking up at, you know, this early time, which is, you know, 2, 3 o'clock in the freaking morning. I'm sleeping 2, 3 hours because I'm trying to get there early. No wonder I was bloody tired. Anyway, because, you know, you don't have any time or clocks or stuff, right? Because you get no electricity. So
Wow.
Anyway, so that was fun. But you know, that sun is so fierce. My hands would blister even from that little bit of time in the sun.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean,
And
you were
how
happy.
long were you in this at this farm?
You
How
know,
many?
I thought we were there longer than we were. To me, from a subjective experience, it felt like we were there for, I don't know. I know it wasn't that long, but it felt like we were there for at least 6 months. But when
Okay.
I actually go over the timeline, it was more like 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
did anything get to grow in those 6 weeks?
Um, uh, I think some stuff started to come up, but I'll tell you now what happens, right? But I have to really emphasize this, because you are living without clocks, without time, and you have nothing that you have to do, right? Except make the fire, cook the rice, and that's it. There's nothing else to do. Yeah. So the days are ridiculously long and very intense. Yes, we went and explored the farm and we checked it out, and it was quite a magical thing, right? So we were always busy doing stuff, but at the same time, that intensity makes the time go very, very long. It's like when you're on vacation, right? I don't know
Mm,
if you've ever been, like, people say they go overseas and they were only they lived in a place for a week, but it felt like they know the country because of the
mm,
intensity. So that was what it's like. So
mm,
anyway, so we're sitting there, and I mean, it really felt like years, never mind months, that we were there. It felt like an age.
mm,
It- it-
mm.
because you're living a completely different life and lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
So everything is different. And because absolutely everything is different, it's very vivid. The experience is very real. So it doesn't matter, the time is extended. So anyway, so one day we just hanging out, and we hear this, sound rumbling. And now a car going by was an event. The road was about a mile away. Yeah. The dirt road,
Yeah.
but you could hear them, right? I think Dolly Parton has a great story that she tells of when she was a young kid, and she would hear the trucks. And I think,
Mm,
and she has a song about it, and you could hear the trucks far in the distance, and then they would come, and then they would go by and drive away. And she had all this, ideas about where they're going and all this. But anyway, it was the same thing, right? I think if we maybe got 5 or 6 cars in the time we were there, it was a lot, right?
okay.
Maybe 3 or 4 even. But anyway, it was an event when a car went by. So you could hear them off in the distance. And if it was in the daytime, you could see the dust, right? So anyway, so we hear a car coming. We're paying attention. Whoa, wait a second, it's coming towards us. Never mind a car. This is a Land Rover, but an old school one, that dark green that you still see in some of those, safari movies, I'm talking about,
Hmm,
right?
hmm.
And it's open, and the guy inside, it's kind of a ranger with a little safari suit on. That's what they call them, the little khaki uniform type dealie. They call them safari suits in South Africa. Anyway, so out he hops, very alacritous little fellow. His name was Yoppie. Anyway, out he comes, striding up, a little bit of a Puff the Magic Dragon, I used to call them, little guys who puff themselves up a little bit, but, quite a bit of alacrity to him. Anyway, he's quite friendly, and, oh, okay, and introduces himself. He's Shoppy. He says, oh, I'm from up on the mountain. Now, in the valley that we are, there's a very clear rise to a mountain, and it's the mountain escarpment. It's like another world up top there. It's an escarpment mountain. You have some of them in Arizona. I don't know if you know what I mean, but it's a huge place, right? I mean, when you're on top of it, if you don't know, if you got dropped there in the night with a helicopter or something, you'd have no idea you're on a mountaintop. You'd swear you're just in a normal place, and it's, you look out the window, you could see this kind of a view. That's my background. It's quite an amazing place up there, but it's on top of the mountain and it's next to us. Now, for him to get to us is a 3-hour drive, because he has to go down the other end of the mountain, drive all the way around, and then get to us, right? You can go directly up the mountain, but the road was really bad, and you need a super 4-wheel drive, and they do it with a tractor sometimes in reverse, and use the tractor. But anyway, So, but the road was too impossible because of the rain, right? That rainstorm that had there, because it was so intense, it had washed away this road that connects now. Turns out the neighbors that my father, that are in the valley down below with us, they have a farm also on top of the mountain, and so does my father. Now, my father's farm is across a ravine, kind of like a little mini Grand Canyon that divides these people, the owners, these farmers, and my father's farm. So they're all connected there. And on this farm up there, this guy Yoppie explains that the owners of this farm they start in a like a game ranch, and they put in up holiday chalets, and people are coming there, and he's inviting us to come and spend the weekend because they heard we down here, right? Because on the farm next door there are some shepherds living, and they must have reported our presence, or not must have, they did report our presence. And that's another story too, when the first appearance of the shepherd comes. This is quite the thing, but anyway, another story for another time. So anyway, so this guy just appears out in the middle of nowhere and okay, invites us up to the farm. Okay, so I mean, we must have smelled like crazy because showers was not an option. Water is very precious. Okay, we go up, and at least we get to have a nice shower and a nice meal and everything. He doesn't know what our situation is, and we kind of explain where we come from and all this, because I'm the doctor's son. Right now, I say that very deliberately because that's how I was referred to there, right, as the doctor's son, like the shepherds, right? And being the doctor is, in the countryside, doctors they're second to God only.
Yeah, they're revered. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, they're a big deal. So I have automatic status and prestige being the doctor's son, and of course I'm the owner's son on top of it. So all right. So the the owners of the ranch farm, we get to Joppie and we explain to him we had the restaurant in Cape Town and all this, and he must have told the owners. So a little while later, we go up and then we come back down again. We get word that, oh, we've been invited by the owners to come back up and start a restaurant on top of the mountain. So that's how we left then from there, and we went to live up on top of the mountain. And yeah, I'll show you. Sorry, I know you said you're a bit low energy, so I'm just telling you stories today.
It's okay.
I don't mean to make it such a long story, but it is a long story, and I just, I don't know. It's hard for it not to be a long story. It's a fun story though, but it's a story of magic, Cheryl. So there's a way of impeccability-ness to it. What am I looking for? Yes. In this, that we went and we had no idea what was going to happen. Yes, we're going to grow our own vegetables. And so when we went up there, we said to the shepherd, who then moved on to our farm because he wasn't there when we came. Oh, he was supposed to look after our thing. He never did. So, he just didn't water it at all. He just, kind of wrote it off. So we never got to really see. But when we came back down again, a whole long story. So we were twice in the desert for the second time before we came here. From there, we went overseas. But anyway, a long story. Here we go. So that's the name of the Kaha Kama. It's pronounced Kaha Kama. Yeah, Americans can't say those G's, right? Bina can say it, but Kaha Kama. This is the international airport, right? This is on top of the mountain now. You see what I mean by the escarpment?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you can drive somewhere along there's an edge, and you can get to the very edge of it, and you can look down, and you'll see the valley down below, right? Anyway, so that's just an airstrip, obviously, but they would fly people in and come and stay in the shallows. So let me see. I'm going to just scroll through these, and so what these farmers had done, the owners, right? And they actually farmed in export fruit, very niche market. Man alive, Cheryl. They brought some of the fruit for us at one time. Apples the size of melons. You like a sweet melon?
Mm,
An apple,
mm.
right? I mean, the apple the size of my head, Cheryl.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So there's all this, and the same with the grapes, right? I mean, grapes that were like plums. They're unbelievable. So
Mm.
they would sell this. This is very, very, very expensive fruit. They would sell to the five-star hotels and to the Saudis, and the sheikhs and people like that. Like because it's so exclusive that they pay a high premium for it. Because if you want to impress people, you give them something they've never seen before, right? So this was their market. Anyway, so they read an article about this particular group of Bushmen. This is an actual photograph. Now, I didn't take this photograph. I found this later on the internet, right? And these guys were living in the north of South Africa, and they were the last surviving tribe of South African Bushmen. There are Namibian Bushmen and Botswanan Bushmen, but this was the last tribe of South African Bushmen. And at the time, they were living basically on the charity of shepherds. Now, shepherds are the lowest of the possible low that you can possibly imagine in the hierarchy of social standings and income. And basically, they couldn't hunt anymore because it's all sheep farming, right? It's all somebody owns the land up there where they were, so they couldn't really kill the animals, and there weren't much deer for them to hunt, wild game. So they were pretty much struggling and suffering. So they saw this article, and on this picture is taken on the mountain where we're at, right? Where they came to live. So they said, well, they're Bushman cave paintings over here, so they must have lived here once upon a time. Why not have them live here again? So they arranged and invited this group of Bushmen to come and live on this ranch of theirs, right? And they did. And of course, it is a major tourist attraction, and I have wonderful stories to tell you as a result of this. So anyway, so where was I going with the story? Oh, I'm just going through the photos. That's right. All right. So this is again. So this farm too. You'll see it now in the second year. They had this is where I went to school. Just kind of looking out from the school across Camps Bay. Yeah. Just the most exquisite place. Well, Bushmen. So here we go. Let me see if I can zoom in a bit. So there's a building.
Wow.
There's a building to my right. This is kind of in the yard or sort of the open space.
How are they lighting this? I mean, there couldn't have been electricity out there.
Yeah, there was. But these
there
are
was?
lanterns. These are oil lanterns, and this is a fire. And so.
And
so
what about in the back in those rocks that are lit?
Yeah, they would have the same with the oil lanterns they would put there. They may have,
okay.
at this point in time, this is taken after. They may have laid underground wiring to put permanent lighting to light up the things. But when we were there, they didn't have that. But these kind of rock formations were part of the mountaintop, and you could see Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and God knows what else. So they were very popular. It was very unusual rock formations. It was very popular tourists. So there was this little alcove, 3 sides that had these rock walls. And then the little building, you'll see it in a moment where we had the restaurant. I can't scroll unless I'm back to the original size. Very weird. I've got a great story about these 2 guys. So one day we're hanging around with these guys because at that stage the tourists who came and stayed in the chalets, there were only like a half a dozen chalets. They would only come on the weekends. So during the week there was nothing to do. So we'd go and hang out with these guys, right? Because I could speak a common language that they spoke. Olivia could too, but not as well as I could. They spoke Afrikaans, right? So when the tourists would come, I would be the translator because I, obviously from English, most of them, and they were all these boffins come from all over the world, experts who've written books and theories and God knows what all. But anyway, we're hanging out, and these 2 guys says, "Oh, you know what? Just like casually mid-morning, we think we're going to go to the store." Now, when you say and I say we're going to go to the store, it's like, well, it's no big deal, right? Store's, I don't know what, minutes away, half an hour, maybe at the most. In this case, the store's 30 miles away and they have no transport.
Oh, geez.
It was a tiny little country store on this road where the farmers would basically get together because, it took quite a while to get to the nearest town. So they had this little sort of convenience store that, but anyway, it wasn't much of a store. But they just jogged there, and then they jogged back like it was nothing. Oh, we're gonna go to the store. Store's 30 miles away. It's not like they did this every day either. And off they went, and came back later in the day. It's still amazing. Yeah. So this guy too, they were much younger than when I knew them. But anyway, this guy, I have a fantastic story about him. It's called Painting the Cave of Expectations. His name was David or David, right? That's his wife. So I have another fantastic story about when she was making the fire and cooking. So I'll tell you both the stories. So so now the guests come, right? And I'm the translator. Yeah. So we drive out to where they live, which is a little ways out. And now I'm very dutiful, right? I'm being impeccable, really trying to be impeccable as a translator, right? So this means as a translator, my opinions mean nothing, right? You have to keep your opinions to yourself as a translator, no?
Yeah.
You can't be interjecting. I have to translate faithfully. So I just stand. So of course the eggheads, somebody walks by. When somebody arrives there, they just completely ignore you, right? They just go about doing their stuff, whatever it is. And so you have to make an effort to go and say, all right, so we're standing there like, two fools with our mouth full of teeth. So somebody walks by and they say, oh, ask them where the leader is. I want to speak to the leader. Okay. So I translate. Now they already know me by this time, right? So I say, he wants to speak to your leader. He wants you to take him to your leader. And you can just see this look of complete incredulity on their faces when they look at me. Seriously, dude, I mean, they didn't say it in this language, but the equivalent. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, we don't have no leader. There's no. So I said, and they can see the confusion on their faces. So of course, they immediately rephrase and say, oh, I want to talk to somebody. So I translate. He says he wants to talk to somebody. Oh, okay. David likes talking. Take him to David. And this is how David came to be the leader. Literally. Oh, David likes talking. Take him to David. Right. So, and this was repeated quite a few times, and they would just every time look at me like I'm the stupid fool. Like, why? What are you asking us such stupid questions for? But okay, I'm a white man, so what the hell, it goes with the territory. Anyway. So off we go to David. So for the next 2 or so hours, right, David would politely listen to whatever they would ask him, right? And now it's translation, right? Now, the questions that they're asking him, right, they're not that difficult questions, but David apparently doesn't understand. So it's a communication thing, but these guys are all, they're experts. They've written their books. They professors and give lectures and God knows what all stuff, right? So they persist and persevere. But David is meantime, he's finding out exactly precisely what this guy's theory is and what he believes and what his opinions and ideas are. And then after a couple of hours of figuring out what the guy's theories and ideas are and beliefs are, he starts feeding it back to the guy. It was too freaking brilliant, right? Painting the Cave of Expectations is the title of that story. He starts feeding it back to them. Every single one of those experts left with their theory verified and confirmed by the leader of the Bushmen. No such bloody thing as a leader of the Bushmen, but never mind the leader of that particular tribe of Bushmen. No, the leader of the Bushmen, like all Bushmen, like he speaks for all Bushmen now. It's too idiotic. But of course, these guys would leave happy as pigs in mud, and they'd give David a nice big fat tip, right? Now, David didn't just do it for the tip. I mean, he was a genuinely nice guy. And to his logic, if you'd said to him, oh, you're just doing it to get a big fat tip, he said, sure. He'd be quite unapologetic about it. Yeah, it makes him happy. But he'd also say, but it makes them happy. It's what they wanted to hear. I'm giving them what they wanted. He was being absolutely benevolent in his mind. He went to a lot of effort to give them what they wanted. But, not one of those eggheads, not one, asked me what I think. If they'd asked me, I said, look, this guy is telling you what he's feeding your stuff back to you. He's telling you what you want to hear.
Yeah, yeah.
Too bad. So just to finish the story, I said, well, I'm now curious, what, because the cave paintings, this was the big thing, right? Because there were lots of cave paintings on the property. So that's what I always asked them about, because each of them had their theory about why, right? Now, the flaws of logic, yes, they looked for an answer, an explanation, right? Automatic logic. Can't you imagine that people can have more than one bloody reason for doing things? Anyway, so I set about asking the Bushmen what's. I made an effort to get them singly, one at a time, because if you have more than one together, the one is going to take the answer of the other one potentially, or be influenced, right? So I was very careful to get them separately and all in a single day. And so it's quite a job to do, by the way, to get people individually like that without making it obvious. And I asked them, okay, what do you think about this? And they all gave me different answers. I mean, some said, it's just the bloody kids. So, graffiti. That one fellow, the younger one of the two that went for to the store jogging, he said, he thinks it's letters from his great grandfather writing to him, and he's going to leave a letter in the same way to his descendants. It was a whole long big thing. And others said, well, it's just art or amusement, or they were just bored or whatever decisions, reasons you could come up with, they all had them. Nothing really profound or significant. So, and most of them just said, I don't know. That was the most common answer. If there's one common answer, it was, I don't know. The same thing, talking about getting them singly, they would eat absolutely anything. I mean, seriously, talk about omnivores, this was them. A grasshopper, they see a grasshopper, grasshopper, scorpion, snail, ant, you name it, whatever, right? But grasshopper, right? So because they ate everything, I asked them, I got them individually, and I asked them, what's your favorite food? So this woman, right, in the picture here, she says to me, camel, but she qualifies because in Afrikaans, a giraffe is a camel horse, right? And a camel is a camel. So, well, it's in Afrikaans, but nonetheless. So she says, no, not a giraffe, which she would have contact with, but the camel, because camels aren't indigenous to South Africa, but up in Namibia, the Germans had brought them when it was a German colony, and there was a few out in the wilds. So she'd actually eaten a dromedary camel with the two humps, right? And this was her favorite food. And others said, gemsbok or kudu or God knows what, all the different exotic game. But the one that was common, if it wasn't their favorite, it was their second favorite. They all had either as one or two, wild donkey. Yes. Wow, that's really interesting. I mean, and this is from people who really now eat everything. I mean, one said snake and all this, you name it. I mean, the I think the poor, vegans or wildlife preservers people would have been horrified, right? Because they'd all eaten, I don't know how many endangered species, right? But for them it's food. It's like, what the hell, they couldn't care if the rhinoceros is endangered. If they can eat it, they're going to eat it. Not that they had, I don't remember rhinoceros or elephant, but certainly giraffe, yes, and other, exotic deer. Anyway, so I thought, wow, this is very interesting. So I thought, man, I got to try and get them some donkey. So I tell when I place my order for the little restaurant that we're making there, I haven't got to the picture of the restaurant. I'll get there. So I said, you know what? I can you organize some donkey for the Bushmen? This is their favorite food. And, I really kind of want to treat them to it. And they thought it was a great idea. I mean, it's nothing to them. So, okay, so they send me some donkey. So I take this donkey out. Now, let me see if I have this picture. I hope so. There's David again, a little older. This was too ridiculous a picture. This wasn't when I was there. All these pictures are 20 years later. But my friend was joking, and then there was a helicopter, and I found this picture. Anyway, it was just one of those weird things. So this was in where we lived, across from us. Come on. So this is also by the restaurant. Again, just in the area.
Beautiful.
There. This is the escarpment of the plain where the a lot of the antelope would roam on. It wasn't all the things. Another close-up picture of the Bushman group. Restaurant I worked in, dinghies that here we go. I used to sail those dinghies, by the way. So this is the kitchen. It's called the rock kitchen, or in Afrikaans, the rotskombuis, right? So you see, it's all made out of stone. And then where we looked at first, that picture would be to the left, that open area, right? Would be to the left of this building now. So, and it's just one open room, and there's a little room that we lived in here, and then the kitchen on the other side of that. That was it, you know, and a shower and a toilet. So, very simple, but we made this into a truly, truly exotically gorgeous place. When we were there, we had those thin reeds, you know, and we made a veranda out of it, all along this, yeah, right? You know, with just like branches, raw branches, not straight poles to hold it up, right? So it was very rough. And then inside, we lowered the ceiling with, again, you know, just with hanging from the ceiling, just using kind of a Hessian string. And we took, you know, just again, you know, branches that weren't very big, and we laid the reeds on top of them. And so we had this lowered ceiling. And then we made dividers from those reeds again, with just, again, you know, clamping pieces of wood together between the tables. And then on the floor, we put down straw, right? So you walk in and you're in this completely different world. There's almost nothing recognizable. People would all freak out about the straw. Oh, don't you worry, it'll catch a light. And I would always strike a match and throw it onto the straw, right? Straw doesn't catch a light very easily, by the way. Yeah. So I said, no, there's no real danger yet. So anyway, I had skins that the owners had, you know, a zebra skin and a kudu skin and whatever. And we put the skins down. And then for ashtrays, we had little natural rock ashtrays and stuff like this. So it was kind of like, you know, very bushman-y. And we served rabbit and springbok and kudu and, you know, all sorts of exotic, you know, game and stuff like that. So it was just unbelievable little restaurant. It was very, very cool. So anyway, so I'm busy telling you the story. I'm hoping to find the picture of where she makes the fire. These pictures aren't in a very good order here. Let me show you that previous one. Gives you a nice view. This is kind of a view from where the chalets were. They were up on a little hill, the rocks, and then
beautiful.
So yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you'd go for a drive in certain areas. You'd have these little rock crop formations that would stick out of this plateau. And, you know, we did some dinners, like candlelight. We'd put
what caused those to be that way?
The rock is very soft, and it's just the wind would erode it. Yeah.
The wind would erode it.
The wind would erode it, yeah. But because the rock was of different hardnesses and it was all mixed together, you got this, you know, the softer rock would get blown away, obviously, and the harder rock would get left behind. So yeah, it was just a very gorgeous area, and some of them had natural little enclaves. So we would drive these people out, and it's, you know, quite a little drive out into the nothing around you. And then it was this particular area, and it had this little walkway through like kind of a rock canyon walls, and we would put candles inside brown paper bags, yes, and we'd line the path with these candles inside the brown paper bags so they wouldn't blow out, right? And of course, it's still, it's quiet. But man, what an effect. You walking in this, you just like in another world. And then you'd walk through this little narrow, the rocks on either side of you, passageway lit with these candles in the paper bags. You get to this enclosure, and there would be these full on, you know, super sophisticated, you know, tables with full on dining settings, your wine glass and your napkin and, you know, all your different knives and forks and side plates and the whole works. And we'd serve them food out there in the middle of nowhere. It was quite something. They were very impressed. They loved it. It was also great. Yeah. So anyway, but I want to show you, that's another long story. All of these things. There's another picture of the place. All these other, this is kind of like a private sort of a file, more or less, you know. That's my school grounds, right? Look at this view where I went to the last 2 years of high school, overlooking this beach, Camps Bay. I mean, you couldn't picture a more idyllic place to go to school. I mean, truly, it's like Malibu, you know, and very high end. I went to, the school was like Beverly Hills 90210, same thing. Anyway, I'm trying to find the picture. That's where I lived. Actually, I didn't live in that area. That area is now, if you carry on around the coast, you go kind of around the Seal and a little more, and then you get to the next bay, and it's out there. There's a couple of bays actually. But anyway, I lived in the
where is this? Cape Town? This is Cape Town?
Yeah, this particular suburb is Sea Point in Cape Town. So that story, the gift of intent, took place over here, right on the beach.
Okay.
And we lived about over here somewhere in one of these skyscrapers, maybe even this one over there, quite possibly.
Okay.
Anyway, but I'm trying to find the picture of the fire. There's that close up of the building again, of the kitchen. That's our neighbor, Zorba the Greek, who had across the street. I got a wonderful story about Zorba the Greek. More of the rocks. That's the chalets. Those are the chalets. See?
Oh, okay.
Where the people lived in, and when you're close, you got these rocks close by nestled in, and it's these thatched roofs, the open thatched roofs. Have you ever been inside them?
No.
There's no ceiling, and so it's those black reeds. They're very thin little reeds like that, right? But they layer them about a foot or foot and a half deep, right? So it's very insulated, and it makes because it's open the space and it's so dense, it's quite cool and it's very nice in the summer, and it's warm in winter. But it's a very, you got that smell of the reeds. It's a very unique type of a building. It's very cool. It's quite excellent. So yeah, it's very cool. Very holiday. Some of the cave paintings. This is again where we were. So this is again back behind where we were. They put this up for a windbreak, but you see, you got the fancy dining, and I mean the building is now. You're standing right. The building is right where the photographer is. The back is probably to the wall of the side of that restaurant. So we'd sometimes have this outside. Basically just a big barbecue. This is not the actual house, but in my middle years, I lived in a very small town, then a middle town, and then in the big city. So I lived in a house that looks very similar to this. Just didn't have the gables there, but very, very similar. This is from one of the patios of one of the chalets. Yeah, this is from the air, Sea Point. Come on, that's my school again. Where's the picture of the fire? I know I've got it. Because I really, that's the chalet again. I'm very keen to show you. Say stop if you see one that you want to take a quicker look at. So longer look. That's a nice picture of the restaurant. Yeah, I mean, it really was a spectacular setting for this restaurant, but truly something special.
Yeah.
Somewhere here I've got a picture of the tiny fire that they make. And because now I'm still telling you the story of the donkey. Taking a long time to get there now, unfortunately. I really thought it was like, oh man, where's my picture? Come on now. I don't know. Anyway, somewhere I've got a picture of it. Okay. So anyway, so I take the donkey that the owners have now sent me. I take it out to the camp, right? And I give them as a gift. And thank you very much. Very nice. They're very happy with the gift. Now, you got to understand something just about how they make food. Two things that are unusual. First, because they come from the Kalahari, and the Kalahari is, very similar in terrain to the valley below where we were. It's sandy soil, little bushes that grow in it. You've seen pictures of the Kalahari, very sparse, and there's no real trees there. So wood is at a premium. They would make that's what they would use to make a fire with. Piece of wood about this big. Yeah, like as big as a zip drive, a flash drive. Yeah. Little tiny pieces of wood like this, yeah. And then they would have the little cast iron pots, but not the big ones, the small, the tiniest shape, the size, right? I mean, it's basically as this size, the little tiny pot. You know what I'm talking about? Those cast iron black pots, yeah? But the very small ones, that's why they could make it on the fire. But they basically make the fire, and they don't have it burn in big flames. It just barely burns as a flame. So it kind of smolders. So it burns for quite a while. It's quite a trick to making that fire. And then the pot sits on top of this, right? So of course that wood is going to take a long time it's basically smoldering, right? And it's giving off heat. So of course it's going to take a long time. It's slow cooking, right? And those pots are made for slow cooking. So that's how they would cook the food, take a long time to cook. But of course it makes for nice food because you're doing, it's like a crock pot, right? It's a slow cooking method, right? And a style of cooking. But also, that's the one oddity, is this tiny little fire. So, and I have the story that I'm telling you is called The Little Pot on the Tiny Fire, right? So anyway, so I give the donkey to David's wife. She puts it on, and the other oddity about them is, and now we're sitting there, it's kind of a little ledge sort of rocks, and we're sitting there in a little sort of an openish area, somewhat communal, and we're just watching what's going on. We're just hanging out, just sort of observing. And I wanted to see what comes from the donkey. And secretly I was hoping maybe I'd get a taste too, but I couldn't really expect anything, especially considering the nature of the fire. And when they make food like this, it's not communal, but anybody was sort of free to help themselves. So the food is cooking and it's been going, and I'm smelling this, and oh my God, it smells too fantastic. And I'm just observing, and every now and then somebody would walk by and they'd open up the pot, open up the lid, stick their fingers in and grab a little piece, because by now the meat is falling apart, right? And they grab them and off they'd go, right? That was it. Yeah, this happened a couple of times already, and I'm like, oh dang it, man, I can't hold it in anymore. I get even emotional thinking about this. I gotta have me a little piece of freaking donkey now. I mean, hang on, I'm just too curious. Yeah, I've got to know. Not only does it smell cool, but just my research, asking them all, this is their favorite feed. I got to taste this. But they don't have much, and I don't want to. So I'm like, very polite. Excuse me, I say to the woman, if you wouldn't mind, would it be possible if I could just get a little taste of the meat? The moment I say this, oh my God, the woman goes away. I mean, she goes deathly quiet, doesn't say a word. Off she goes. They speak in their language, right? Kind of back somewhere, behind those. They had a couple of those little reed arts like that. And the next thing, freaking bedlam breaks out, right? Seriously, bedlam. People are rushing about, loud, vigorous, excited, talking. I mean, something is really going on. I said, what the fuck did I do now? Oh my God, sit there. I just want to sit. All right. So the next thing, a delegation comes. And I seriously mean a delegation, right? So the same fellow again in that painting, the one on the right-hand side, right? Yeah, I can't remember his name, unfortunately. The guy on the left was David's brother. But anyway, okay. So the guy on the right is, he's like the sort of the younger spokesman, right? At least he's a bit more articulate than most. He's the head of the delegation. Very clearly a delegation. I mean, I've never ever seen a delegation in any other context or thing, but this was a delegation, and they approach like a delegation does, right? So we're sitting there on this rock thing, the little fire. It's just sandy, nothing around us. The two of us sitting there in the middle of nowhere. This delegation approaches. Guy clears his throat very formally. Now he's speaking to me. Right now we communicate in Afrikaans, but obviously I'm going to translate in English. Excuse me, sir. I am very apologetic, but I have to report that we are unfortunately unable to meet your request. Right? Very formal language like this. Yes. Like, oh, yeah, I'm about to go into tears. Like, man, I'm like really like, what the hell did I do now? I'm sorry.
Right.
And he can see my confusion, right? Like he says, now he's a bit embarrassed, right? I mean, not a bit, but quite a lot. And clearly he is exhibiting embarrassment on behalf of the entire group. He says, in very formal language, I don't remember, but something to the equivalence of, it's my lament that I have to report that we are unable to formulate this request because we do not have the crockery and cutlery appropriate to your station. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Because in their mind, I mean, this is apartheid South Africa, right? They Bushmen, they, non-whites, we white people, and well, the white people eat off tables with tablecloths and crockery and cutlery and dishes and all this. And I look at this guy like he's from freaking Mars, and I say, man, I'll just take some out of the pot like you guys with my fingers. No worries, not a problem. Oh my God! The moment I say this, fucking bedlam again breaks out. What the fuck did I do now? I'm like, oh shit, I'm like really putting my foot in it today. The next thing I know, the whole tribe, every single one, man, woman, child, grandpa, grandma, baby, the whole fucking work is sitting in my lap and in Olivia's lap, the two of us, right? The whole tribe is within the space of my arm's reach on either side, right? All whatever, 20 of them or so, right? All of them right there, boom, right on top of us. And their fingers are running through our hair. They're holding man, woman, holding my hand, tucking their arm around me, sitting right in me and on top of me. I must have been in contact with at least, I don't know, a dozen people, right? Physically, no more, right? Like everybody was touching me in some way, or Olivia, right? Because the moment I said, I'll just take it out of the pot with my fingers like you guys, they realized I was not the typical stuck-up white person. That was the implication. They put it together immediately that we didn't see them as separate, and we saw them as people, right? Not as some other species or whatever, right? And there was no hierarchy from us. We just saw
Right.
them as people. I mean, I'm willing
Right.
to put my fingers in the pot, same as you. I'm same as you, right? So that moment that I said this, we got adopted into the tribe. And
Oh
we
my
went from being
gosh.
outsiders to being insiders. Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes me very emotional.
Oh my gosh.
It was a
Yeah.
huge deal.
Yeah. Yeah. I can tell.
So now we're sitting
Yeah.
there, and and everybody, and they just welcome
Did you
us.
stick your fingers in the pot? I'm dying to know.
Right. No, there's more to the story. I'm getting there. It's a great story. I love the story. So now I'm sitting there, right? And of course, I can't move because I've got all these people, and they're small people. They're like children. When we first saw them, the whole tribe, the whole group was in the back of a pickup truck, and we thought it was like a school outing. There were school children because they're not very big people. They're all small, right? I mean, the guys would probably come up to my shoulder, right? So I'm kind of a bit of a giant there. Olivia's petite and small, she's 5 foot tall, so she's more their size. But she was a little bit more rotund than they were. Not that she was a rotund, but even normalness, you can see in those pictures, kind of skinny. Anyhow, so now I can't move anywhere, and I haven't forgotten about the donkey. So anyway, so they basically welcome us into the tribe, and just jabber and jabber, and no real conversation, just everybody just happy, just literally welcoming us into the tribe. It was very cool, but nothing formal, just acceptance and appreciation. Like, you cool, you guys are cool, yeah? Because just touching a white person, would be, I don't know if you ever been in segregated communities, and this is
No.
just out of the question, you just,
Right,
just
right,
not something
right.
that's just not done.
Yeah, I'm
So
aware of it. Yeah.
yeah. So you can imagine this is a massive big deal, and we're just like, this is really cool. I still want to taste my donkey. So I don't know if I said something or if they clicked, but the same fellow, he comes, and he brings, and a little bit of a hush falls, and he brings me some donkey on a little side plate. Oh God, dang it! This was the most beautiful, gorgeous side plate I've ever seen. Had a little crack and a chip in it, but man, it was too beautiful, right? Little piece of donkey on the side plate, right? The only side plate they probably had with this crack and the chip in it. And I taste this, and oh my God, was this the most delicious meat I've ever fucking tasted by a long shot. It was too awesome. It was really cool. It was really, really excellent. I mean, it tastes like a cross. I see why they like it. Not just the emotion of the time made it awesome. The way they cook it makes it awesome. But also it's a cross between venison. It has that wildness of venison, but it has the like beef, right? So it's like you're taking the best of beef and the best of venison, and you mix the two together, right? Because venison can be a bit gamey and stringy. It can be a bit too strong, right? And then, beef is ordinary. It's kind of plain. We know it. So when you take the beef and you add that bit of wildness to it, it's just the most perfect blend of everything. So, I mean, I can see why it's their favorite. But, in those circumstances, how can you ever eat something more precious, right? It was just too unbelievable. So that's then how the story ended, me eating from this little plate. So, and now I did ask, could I have a little bit more? I did even ask for seconds, which, man. So I didn't feel too bad. I mean, they only had it because of me. So,
Yeah,
But,
of course,
it was
of course.
quite something. So then the whole relationship changed, and
Yeah.
we were basically part of the tribe, and that's caused its own problems, by the way. So I don't know if you need to go, but I'll tell you one more story. You need to go?
I do. I haven't had any supper yet, and it's 7 o'clock.
All right. Okay. Well, on that note of the food, enjoy your pizza. I mean, I don't know what it's going to taste like after that, but so,
I'm
again,
sure it's not going to compare to your donkey,
some
but
old stories of impeccability, right?
yes,
Because I
absolutely.
was
No,
impeccable.
I enjoyed the story. It was all very good.
Oh, thank you.
Very
I
good.
love
Yeah.
that story. It's a great story, but it's about
Yeah.
impeccability. And I never would have seen that the previous story too. I was being an impeccable translator. I didn't offer my opinions. I just translated what the people would do and see what would happen, right? And I never would have seen that incredible sophisticated diplomacy from David had I not been an absolutely impeccable. No matter what nonsense they asked, I would just say it. Like, take me to your leader. I knew they didn't have no leader, but I said it. So impeccability has its incredible rewards, and the same thing with the food.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have asked for it, and they would have given it to me simply because I'm a white guy to ask. But my impeccability says, look, it's their food. They don't have much, so I had to ask it as a favor, you see.
Yeah.
And so it led to that whole scenario, which changed everything. And I have more stories of some of the stuff that happens, but impeccability has its own rewards. It truly does. It really does.
Yes.
So but in the context of that story, though, right, we ended up in that desert. For most people, they would see that as a bottom. But from that, we went to the ranch up there, and it was a long story, BMNs and all sorts of drama and stuff. But the end result of that is that we ended up coming here to America.
Yeah.
I mean, the owners bought us out in the restaurant, and the money from the buyout we used for the plane tickets.
I see. Oh.
It's a long story. There's omens involved and stuff, so it's a magical story. Like all of these stories, they're all magical, but still, I'm just saying, and then the real bottom was when we came here and ended up on the streets.
Wow.
Which was a high as well, but that's a story for next time.
Okay.
I do want to tell you that story because it's a story about the worst coming true.
Okay.
Right, but not the worst. Yeah.
All right. Okay, my friend.
Thank you for listening to my stories. I do enjoy telling them, but like I said, there are stories of impeccability, so they are part of what we do.
Absolutely. Yeah, I enjoyed it. No, it was good.
I'm glad you enjoyed it because your energy was a little low, so I'll tell you stories instead of
Okay. All right.
I do want to hear more, and I do want to continue with slides and stuff. Right, next time.
Yeah, next time, Friday we'll do slides.
Friday. Okay. Good. I'm very keen. I'm very, very keen to do slides. Yeah, but I will tell you the story about being on the streets.
Yeah, the Friday.
Also remind me on Friday. It's an important story. It is a very important story. Oh, yeah. Okay. Brilliant. All right. Love you, Cheryl. Love you.
All right. Love you too.
A hug for me and a smack just because I don't know.
Yeah, my grandmom used to do that. She used to
give you a hug and a smack.
She used to give you a pinch and a smack.
Yeah. It just seems like Greg is one of those people who needs both.
I'll do it.
Okay. All right.
Love
you, Cheryl.
Okay.
Love you, Cheryl. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Oh, so brilliant, Cheryl. Thank you.